ultimately we're in the life-changing business. I mean, for her, 150 grand was between the difference of retiring next year or in 10 years from now.
Welcome to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Ryan Garofalo out in Destin, Florida. Ryan is an agent with LPT Realty, and today he shares with us his unique and touching journey into real estate, the way he goes above and beyond for his clients, and the importance of mindset in real estate. Ryan has such a cool, calm, and collected vibe. I absolutely loved chatting with him. So without further ado, let's dive in. Thank you for listening to the Closing Table Podcast, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please make sure you are following our podcast on Apple and Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, hit that subscribe. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a review or a comment. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today. Can we start it off with how you got started in real estate?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. Thank you for having me. By the way, I really appreciate it. It really goes back to 2005. So, my family relocated to Destin, Florida. My dad was in a really long time career in FedEx, and he got a call from one of his friends, who was a big time developer in the area. And so, we took him up on it. He's like, "Hey, we'll fly you over on my private jet. Come on over." So, we were all about it, wanted to start a new life. And so, got to see just like, what it's like to be in a sales kind of business, to be in real estate and super fast pace. And, you're touching so many different properties, you get to help so many different people. And honestly, I just kind of fell in love with it. And so, it honestly kind of goes sad and then happy after that. But shortly after that, my father actually passed away unexpectedly. And so, Kat, I just went through such a turbulent time in life. I mean, it was, gosh, probably 2 or 3 years of just grieving and sadness. And, I feel like all of us, we tend to have those God moments, you know what I mean? And so I feel like I had one of those moments years after my dad had passed away. And I remember so specifically just sitting in the parking lot with my mom and just bawling my eyes out and just so just heartbroken. And I'm just like, where is my life going to go? I'm 12 years old at the time. And, your parents are everything to you at that point, right? So I really trace it all back to that moment with my mom. And we just had that God moment where I'm just praying and I'm just asking God. And she's encouraging me, and she's like, you know what, you have two different paths in front of you right now. You have this path right here where you can continue to grieve and all that kind of stuff, and it can take you down a really dark path, right? Or you can use that, right, and allow that to propel you forward and really do justice to your father's legacy. And so I decided to go down the other path. And so it wasn't, uh, but just a couple months after that, my mom actually found an ad in a magazine at a church. And the ad was the organization is called Team Focus, and they are aimed at providing leadership and support to young men without fathers. And so for me, it was just like an answer to prayer. And so I went to one of the camps that summer, kind of reluctantly, didn't really want to do it, didn't really know what to expect. But come to find out that it just opened up my mind to just a whole different world of people out there who were in similar situations, like myself, who maybe they lost a parent or a loved one or something like that, and they used, something like that to propel them forward and to encourage other people. So it just really expanded my mindset. And from that point, I felt like I had the confidence and the mindset to go after the harder things in life. And so to honor my father's legacy, that's kind of what led me into real estate.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I lost my father when I was a teen too, and it's tough. But I'm so glad you were able to find purpose out of it. So you went straight into real estate, no other career path.
So it was kind of a windy path. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
After that, I did go to college in Houston, and like so many people, they're like, "Oh, I'll figure it out. I'll spend, 20, 40 grand, and I'll figure it out when I get there." And so I got a degree in leadership and business. And I just thought, well, heck, I'm just going to climb the corporate world and stuff like that, kind of put my dreams and passions aside. Like one day the real estate thing will kick off. I do that, and I start working in, just different jobs and stuff like that. Like one of the jobs that I did, I joke with people all the time. I was a chicken shepherd in college.
What is
I don't know
that?
if that's an official job title, but it is one that I have made up. I was working at a crane and rigging company, and the family that I worked for, they were just super awesome people, and they kind of lived on somewhat of a compound, and so they had about, I would say about 100 chickens that I just used to shepherd and watch over, and anytime a raccoon, we try to deter them away. So that was one of the jobs I did. I worked for a beach chair company. I worked in doing HR. I was an HR corporate director at one point. And it wasn't until COVID that I'm like, you know what? Everyone's worst fear is the sky is falling. It's like, well, we're pretty much the sky is falling at that point, right? So my wife and I were like, you know what? I guess, if we're going to try at any point, now's the time. I didn't go into it quite yet. I started a luxury real estate photography business. I started going in these multi-million dollar homes and I'm photographing them, I'm marketing them. It just kind of got me thinking like, gosh, I feel like I could actually sell these homes. So I got my real estate license in 2022. And then I started with the Corcoran Group. My first year, I think I did about 3 million, and then second year I did about 5 million in production, and just started to go up from that point. And then I was recruited by Keller Williams, and now I'm at LPT Realty. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
awesome. It's so funny. I've talked to a lot of agents who kind of finally dive into real estate after like these kind of big crisis events. Like I've talked to agents who like started in '08, and a lot of agents who like started in COVID. And I think there is a little bit of like, well, the sky's already falling. I might as well do what I want to do thing going on.
that was kind of like it for me. And I think the biggest thing for so many agents, and I'm sure you've probably heard this and can relate, it's like, when you go from a super stable job with a steady income and you know exactly when that check is going to hit biweekly and you know your benefits and your schedule, and then to go from that to just being, completely commission based, like, the sky is, the limits, and it's scary for a lot of people, naturally, and that's kind of how it was for me too. But you have to just kind of take the bull by the horns and just go after it.
Right, right. Because sky's the limit, but there's also no floor, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right.
You start working in real estate, you start working with clients. What is it like for clients to work with you?
So when they work with me, I tell a lot of people like I'm going to treat you the way that I would treat my mother. And when I say that to some people, I kind of joke and like, well, some people don't really like their moms, but I'm the kind of guy that I love my mom. I have the highest respect, the highest regard for her. So that's how I treat my clients. I've lived in the area, since 2005, and so I know I've touched just about almost every community in the area, and I know it super well. And so I leverage that experience on top of just my heart to serve people and make sure that they're going to be getting themselves into a good situation. And so a lot of that is, taking a look at the communities and the rental history if it's an investment property, and really combing through like the seller's disclosure and making sure that, they're getting themselves into something that's a good investment, right? Versus something that's depreciating or just in a maybe not a good area.
Yeah, and you're in that kind of Emerald Coast area, right? So do you get a lot of investors in that area?
We do. And yes, I'm super blessed to say I live in this area. We love it. And I would say most of my clients, Kat, are more so than not investors. I work with a lot of people who, want to buy and hold long-term real estate, short-term real estate. So that's primarily my client base.
Totally. I mean, I think Florida is such a destination, right, for continental travelers. It makes sense.
Big time.
While we're on the topic, what do you love most about the area?
What I love most, just because I'm a foodie, like I love all the restaurants that we have here. For whatever reason, we just attract so many good chefs to our area. Like Chef Emerald has a restaurant here. It's super good. We've got several other just local restaurants that are fantastic. But when I'm not working, I just love to just go, for walks on the beach with my wife, and we love to just, stick our feet in the sand, throw our paddle boards in the water, and I mean, it's just like it's kind of like you're in Cancun, you know what I mean? A lot of our beaches have been related to Cancun, Mexico. They're just so beautiful, and it's almost like you feel like you're in a time warp or you're on vacation, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the huge perks about living here is like, you get to work and stuff like that, but it's like you also get to enjoy like all the beautiful, things that this area has to offer as well.
Are you close to the beach?
So we are actually about 4 minutes away. So I could
Oh my.
technically ride my bike. I'd rather just drive. But yeah, we are just a hop and a skip away.
Right. I don't think you really like understand beach culture until like you've like vacationed on a beach and I know a lot of people have, but a lot of people like also haven't. And so I didn't it took me to see for myself to understand the whole like beach bum thing. If I'm on a beach, like I don't need anything. I literally need nothing. I don't need to read a book. I just need like a place to sit in an umbrella so I don't get sunburned. It's amazing.
We're the same way. Like whenever we go out to the beach, it's like I want to just completely disconnect from technology. I mean, unless it's like a client, I'm like, okay, I got to take this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Said every real estate agent in this area, right? But yeah, we love to just disconnect, like you said, take a book out there, pack a picnic or a lunch, and just enjoy it.
Going back to your clients, like, do you have some favorite client stories, like some instances where you've gone above and beyond?
I do have a couple stories like that. One of them was a little bit more recently, and I think we all have that one deal that shakes us so much to our core. This particular one, so it was a high-rise condo. The seller and I had been talking for years about getting it listed, getting it sold, and then finally she pulled the trigger and she's like, okay, let's do it. We had several showings and stuff like that. We're getting a lot of good activity on it. We went ahead and accepted an offer. I'll tell you what, Kat, it was just like nothing short of an absolute nightmare. I felt so bad for her. She was the sweetest person on planet Earth, but we just had such an awful experience. So the condo was under litigation, and as you're aware, like a lot of lenders don't really like that, and so they have a particular criteria that they go through to see whether or not they can actually lend on it. And so we're about 30 days through, about to close, and we're all, doing our little pre-happy dance and everything. And the lender tells us on the 11th hour, hey, y'all, it's not going to close. Fast forward four other extensions, we get to another 30 days beyond the time we're supposed to close, and they're like, yeah, someone dropped the ball, and they were lying to us, and it was just an absolute nightmare. So that lender was fired, and I'm representing the seller. And so we're working with a newer buyer's agent who I'm kind of helping through this process, and it wasn't her fault whatsoever. But so we get to lender number two. They make all these promises. They tell us it's going to be great. We can get you guys closed in 2 weeks. Another 30 days goes by. They can't deliver. And so we're at this point where the seller is now, they have a contingency on another home. They're relocating to another state. They absolutely have to close on the condo, and so I knew at that point that it was time to get out the big guns. And so we fired all the lenders, negotiating with the buyer's agent. We went ahead and did a seller financing, which with terms that were agreeable to both sides. We got it closed, and both of them, the condo here and the home for my sellers in another state, closed simultaneously, and it worked out in honestly a really beautiful way. But it was it's a crazy story.
That is. How do you like stay resilient and like creative during that, right? Because you ultimately came up with the solution that made it all happen. How do you not get discouraged?
I think the biggest thing is, having a strong mindset, right? Telling yourself at the end of the day, it's going to work out and truly believing it and knowing that you're waking up with the intention of, hey, I'm going to do absolutely everything that I can to make sure that we get to the finish line. And so I had no doubt that we were going to make it happen one way or another. But I think the hardest part is, the face off in the mirror every day, telling yourself, oh my God, and just, weeding out all of the negativity and stuff like that and all the negative thoughts and just staying positive, but being also realistic about it. at the same time.
You seem like you have a really great mindset about everything. Like you're very calm and collected. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that's one of those things that just over time we develop. I am blessed to say that my wife is just incredible, and I look up to her. And she's a professional photographer, and her and I just sharpen one another. So when there's days where we tend to get those negative thoughts, we kind of have a little board meeting together, and we just kind of work through, hey, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Is that true? And does that align with reality? And so we kind of just bring ourselves back down and ground ourselves to planet Earth, because sometimes we can just think, the sky is falling or this is going to happen. And we don't want to borrow fear or worry, because that just doesn't help us, in terms of our health and mental health, and it doesn't help us serve our clients. So I think that's one of the ways, being more ritualistic too, like when you wake up in the mornings, like everyone has like their own rituals, so to speak. I think for me, prayer, meditation, reading the Bible, listening to really good, positive podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts, other than yours, Kat, is the Ed Milet Show. He is just so good, and all of his content is just packed with a lot of positivity, and he really focuses on just people developing their mindsets. And so one of the ways that I do that, and when he's encouraged his audiences through faith, so your higher belief, connecting with that, and knowing that for me that's God, and for me that's knowing that God has a plan and a purpose, and He wants good things to happen to me. So aligning myself with that, number one. Number two, I would say, is waking up with intention. A lot of us dream of doing all these grandiose, successful things, but some of us are in chapter one or chapter five, or some of us are already there and are teaching others, and coaching and mentoring. So I think knowing that you have the intent to be successful, and you have the intent to provide value to people's lives, and do good things, and to be kind to others, and you genuinely want great outcomes for people. And then I'd say the last thing is who we associate with. And I mean, it's something our parents, taught us growing up. We hear it all the time. You are who you hang around, right? You're the average of all the five people in your life. And I'm sure you can attest to that too, I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. There was certain friendships that were in my circle that were not feeding me. I think they were hindering me, and so I had to do a lot of pruning, if you will. So I would think all of that has really contributed to where my mindset is today.
Oh, that's so good and so actionable. What would you say are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in real estate?
Number one, you're going to have hard days for sure. Like, there's no question about that. And when you do have those hard days, just know that you're not alone, and you're not the only one that experiences it. And it's those hard days that make us stronger. Number two, and we've, touched on this a couple times, is, that face off with yourself in the mirror every single day. What are you telling yourself when you wake up and you're brushing your teeth and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're getting ready for the day? Are they positive thoughts that are building you up? Because a lot more times than not, we wake up and we tell ourselves, man, I'm not good enough, or why would I even get up today? There's days where you just want to hit the snooze button. And so I think our self-talk has to be really, really good. I think those are a lot of the things. And then another thing too is, I'd say, for a lot of agents out there, get a coach or get a mentor that has, a lot of people say, well, how do I figure out what to do, where to go? It's like more oftentimes, it's asking the people that have traveled down the road and are coming back, right? And there's a old Chinese adage that talks about that. So I would encourage people to get a coach, get a mentor, and that's one of the things that I do. I have both. I have been blessed with a great real estate coach who's helped me with that mindset, and then a mentor in the area who did commercial real estate, and now they're at that point when they just want to give courage and help. I would say all those things, but there's obviously so much more to unpack there.
Totally. And how did you decide your coaches and mentors were right for you?
I would say for me, like it was where like my coaches and mentors, they just aligned with, I think, just what I wanted to be, I think that was a big thing for me, and just chemistry. I am not a hard sale person. I'm the kind of person where I just want to genuinely help people. And I talk to so many people on the phone every day, and there's those coaches out there that are the hard sale guys, and I just don't feel like that's what I really identify with. I identify more with, hey, I'm here to help you. Does it make sense for us to work together or not? And giving people the autonomy to choose, because ultimately I think that is the greatest salesperson, is when you're working with people that they genuinely want to help you accomplish your goals versus get something out.
Speaking of goals, like, do you do goal setting? Do you have goals for this year that you'd like to share?
I'd say my real estate goal for this year, I always put a number to it, and then you got to back it up, right? And then figure out how am I going to get to that. But I would say my number in production this year, I'd like to hit around 10 million this year. But more importantly, it's not the number, but it's, who am I serving? And I'm looking at one of the notes here that a client left me. I keep a lot of my notes like just on my desk and stuff like that. And it was a person that I didn't even know, and just, struck up a conversation with her and let her know, hey, did you know that your condo could sell for 150,000 more than what you bought it for? And she didn't know that. And she wrote me the sweetest note, Kat, and she just said, I usually don't answer my phone or anything like that, but when you called, I felt like I should, and I'm so glad that I did because you were kind, like you were great at communication, and you helped me. And I think for me, that's the most important thing, is like, obviously we have to find things that, help us, live, right? We have to make a living, but I think for me, that really wasn't my motivation. Like to get into real estate was money. It was how can I expand what I do and how can I help people? Because ultimately we're in the life-changing business. I mean, for her, 150 grand was between the difference of retiring next year or in 10 years from now. That's just, that's where I come from, and that's what I want to do.
Oh, that is so cool. Personally, do you have anything like you're looking forward to this year?
I think for me, so like my wife and I, we just went to Europe. It was like our first time ever going. Have you ever been?
Yes, I went to London back in 2010, so it was a while ago.
Yeah, how was that?
Oh, it was
Amazing.
amazing. And ironically, like the hottest week, it was like a record high heat, like you think of London, and it's so funny because we started our conversation talking about how hot it is here. Like, you're like, London is like 65 and overcast and it's like gloomy. And it was like 85 degrees. I had packed all the wrong clothes, had to
No.
buy like sandals there. It was fine. The trip aspect was amazing. I went with a group. We packed in so many things. We saw so many beautiful shows on the West End. And yeah, it was a trip of a lifetime.
It's amazing.
What about you? What about your Europe trip?
Ours, we actually went in the opposite. We went when it was freezing cold. We went to Prague. Um, we want to go to London, so that's actually, it's funny you say that. So that's actually on our list to do. So we like to do that sometime in November. That's when my wife's season with photography tends to slow down a little bit, and that's when my season kind of slows down a little bit too. So we'd like to do that. Obviously, we'd love to go to Italy, so we might just do a little backpack trip through Europe, or I don't know, it's kind of a toss up. But yeah, we like to go back to Europe basically. So that's definitely one of our things. Gosh, in terms of other things, so I am actually on a personal weight loss journey. You probably can't tell from the jacket I'm wearing, but I've actually lost, Kat, like 33 pounds.
Oh,
So
wow, awesome.
I am on the way to losing about 40 is my goal. So I am about 10 pounds away from my goal at this point. So by August, I should, if I continue to diet and track, I should hit that. So I'm really excited about that for a lot of reasons.
That's awesome. Those are tough goals, and so I'm excited for you, and congratulations on all the hard work you've done so far.
Thank you.
Why don't you let people know how they can find you, how they can work with you?
Absolutely. So if you want to find me, you can obviously Google Ryan Garofalo, Realtor, Destin. That'll take you to my profile. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or you can shoot me a text or an email. My email is ryan@garofalore.com.
Awesome. And we'll link those things in the show notes so people can easily find them. Ryan, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you so much, Kat. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please make sure you are following our podcast on Apple and Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, hit that subscribe. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a review or a comment. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys next time.